Marlon Anderson, who watched it and broke it down for Comcast Sportsnet after the game. He joins us now. And Marlon, Zach Eflin's numbers in the minors, very good. They didn't carry over today, and it was a big jump for him today to go against that Toronto lineup, which has struggled this year, but they are very good when they're on.
What they are, and I think the biggest point you got to take from today was he was missing his spots. And when you're facing big league hitters on a consistent basis, you can't miss your spots. And he did not establish the fastball into anybody, which again makes that fastball, makes the off-speed pitch when you're throwing it over the middle of the plate a lot easier to hit. So tough day for him, tough day for the kid.
It was a tough day for him, but in general, he has pitched very well in the minors. Let's give him some credit there. But for the most part, again, it kind of shows there is a big jump there. So for all these fans who want to see these younger guys to make that jump, he showed you today that you just don't come up here and start getting guys out whenever you feel like it.
It's still the big leagues, and it's the biggest jump in your life moving from, people say, oh, your biggest jump is from, A-ball to double A. It's like, no, the biggest jump is from triple A to the big leagues, because this is where guys, they have been getting paid for years, they've figured out things, and you come up and you make mistakes. The big leagues is a game of hitting mistakes and pitchers taking advantage of mistakes that the batters make. So, you have to be on point with that. And, development. I'm all about letting a guy who's doing well in AAA stay in AAA and do well at least until September when their season's over. Then you bring him up and see what he has for a while. It's the old school way, probably the way I look at it now, because most teams don't do that anymore, and it's hit or miss. But I just hate crushing a guy's confidence when he's so young, and you have him for a while, and he's a prospect in your organization. But of course, the decision is always made in-house, and they bring guys up, and you have to live with the results after that. You have to give him a chance to go back out there and hopefully build his confidence after this tough loss today.
Marlon Anderson with us. And Marlon, we kind of get a 2-for-1 with you here because we haven't talked about the Phillies game last night as well, where they do win on that side of the coin. And Jared Eichhoff looked really well. What do you think the difference was in Jared Eichhoff last night that we hadn't seen in some previous starts?
For me, it's just spotting his fastball, getting ahead, because when he spots his fastball and he gets ahead, it actually makes his off-speed pitch so much better. And, for me, with him, too, as well, and what I like, he's a bulldog. He wants to be on the mound. He wants to pitch. He wants to take it at hand. And his numbers, I think he's got a 3.4 ERA right now, which is not bad. I mean, he hadn't won a lot of games. That's probably because of the offense. But, he's a guy that goes out there and he competes every time he's on the mound. And I really like that about him. And facing a team in Toronto who hadn't seen him before, he's able to establish his fastball and keep them off balance. They couldn't hit that curveball, and he was dropping that slider down and away from him a little bit. So, for me, I love what he brought to the table, just that bulldog mentality and just wanting to be out there, but figuring out a way to get a win for a team who desperately needed a win.
And I think you said this magic word there, Marlon, the slider. I read an article that said that he had a conversation with Larry Anderson, who would know a little bit something about throwing sliders. When you were a player, would you seek help from wherever it came from and try to incorporate it in?
It's all about taking the information in, using what you can, but also not getting away from who you are personally as a pitcher. Because sometimes I think people get away from who they are. He's a fastball pitcher. His off-speed pitches are his secondary pitches. He has to always establish his fastball, and that's what he's been doing lately when he's been successful against not only Toronto but also the Cubs lineup, which is really tough right now.
We're talking with Marlon Anderson, Comcast Sportsnet, of course, former Philly. And when you were coming up, you mentioned the other day that the Phillies need to kind of simplify the game of baseball. How difficult is that, though, for these younger players? They're all very anxious, and I think that, to me, that would be something very difficult for a young guy, is to say to them, hey, you got to simplify things, because they don't compute that a lot of times.
Well, it's tough. Learning to play in the big leagues is learning. There's a lot of failure. I mean, if you only fail 70% of the time, you're going to be an all-star for your whole career and be an possibly Hall of Famer. So there's a lot of failure in baseball, but it's how you fail, and it's learning through your failure. And it's not being afraid to fail and not getting judged all the time on the failure, because failure is a part of baseball. Knowing that, for me, what helped me as a young player in this game was having the veteran guys around me who can keep me settled down and kind of give me the ins and outs of baseball, because I learned so much from them. Because you think you know a lot of baseball until you get to the big league, and then you realize that there's guys that are around that know a lot more than you do and can help you in this game. So for me, I love the bench guys that are around. Guys like Kevin Jordan for me back in the day, and, Doug Glanville, guys that have been around for a while. Brian Hunter was here. Turner Ward was here. Like, just guys who talk baseball and just gave me a lot of experience. Today's game, they don't really have those veteran guys like that. So there's a lot of figuring it out on your own, and there's a lot of lonely times, especially when you're struggling at the plate like Galvez was. You got to, hit today, but I think he was 4 for 47, I think somebody said before that. And, that's tough. That's a tough stretch to go through without having guys that can kind of help you get out of that tough time or talk to you about it. So.
Marlon, before one of the big home runs I know that was given up today, and I had the benefit or pleasure, I guess, of being able to combine both watching on TV and also listening to radio at the same time. I was kind of doing both. And I heard somebody complain about the Phillies throwing to the wrong base or making some fundamental mistakes. Does that go to their youth, and are you seeing things like that as a former player, that the Phillies are just making some boneheaded mistakes?
Actually, I don't see that very often, and I tell people that's one of the things that I like is they're not making a lot of bonehead mental mistakes that young guys make. They just don't have the offense to compete on some nights, and then if they do make a mistake, it's magnified, and that's the reason, but it's really not the reason. The reason is their offense is just struggling. They don't have the guys that can drive the ball out of the ballpark. They got to put together multiple hits time after time in order to score runs. That's what's tough on a young team. They're not. I don't look at them as making bonehead plays. I think throwing to the wrong bag, I think I heard a little complaint about, Herrera not coming through that ball and throwing it to third base and the guy going first to third. Well, I want him to catch the ball and get the ball to the man, because it's 2 outs. You don't want to rush into something and make a stupid mistake and cost yourself a run in a tough situation. So I have not personally seen that on a consistent basis. I actually think they're playing pretty good defense. I think the attitudes of how McKinnon's dealing with them, I think it's been great. I think the communication's been good. I just think that sometimes, we're always looking for an excuse of why they're doing bad or why they're losing. And they just have a young, inexperienced team who does not have the ability to hit the 3-run home run on a regular basis, which makes it tough for them to compete day in, day out.
Yeah, and Marlon Anderson, you make the point about their defense. They've been the reason they're 30 and 35. Let's be honest. It's not because of the talent they have. It's because they've pitched and played exceptional defense. That's pretty much why they are even where they are, is that they've been a very good defensive team. And I think the last week or so, they've kind of substituted or tried to substitute some offense for some defense with Ashe and Paredes, bringing him in. And Paredes made a play in right field last week that maybe helped the other, helped them lose a game. So they've tried to sacrifice a little defense for some offense just because their offense was that bad.
Yeah, and I think, again, you got a guy, you're making a mistake. Things are going to be magnified on this team, every little mistake, because it's hard for them to win games. They don't score a lot. But, again, if you're going to bring a guy over and want him to play a little bit, I'm just sorry. I mean, I like the guys on the team. I like the defensive mindset and all, but you don't develop defense. You don't develop an offensive team playing good defense. I think you try to get guys to score runs and try to, be positive on that side, because if you get the lead and you want to bring in your defense to protect the lead, that's one thing. But you got to have guys that can swing the bat and help score runs, and at least intimidate a little bit on the offensive side if you want to have any kind of success. They're all young. Let them get out there and play and hit in the big league.
And one guy who's young and swinging the bat is Tommy Joseph. He hit a couple homers the other night. And obviously we know what's going on with the Howard. He's played the last 2 games because of the DH, but that's probably going to go away. And I'll ask you, Marlon, I mean, I think that they've handled it about as well as they can. Pete Mackinnon has said, look, it's almost like he says to his next-door neighbor, like, hey, the guy across the street, I don't really like him, but what do you want me to do? He's got a nicer house than you do. He keeps inviting me over. I got to go. I got to do it. I think they've handled it about as good as as well as they could at this point. And I think Howard's handled it well. Pete's done a good job. And Joseph, he's got a lot of pressure on him, and he's handling it pretty well. So how do you think this whole Howard thing, which is a very tough thing to kind of do for everybody, how do you think it's gone over the last week?
So far, it's so good. What I respect is the fact that Pete has pulled him to the side. He's talked to him. And, you can't knock that. He came out and got to a hot start. But you have to also realize there's going to be adjustments with him, too, because if he goes around the league, teams are going to see him. And, it's going to be one of the things that's going to be a constant adjustment. Right now, you can't just Ryan couldn't justify going in there and arguing that he needs to be playing every day because of the numbers he's put up and the things he's done. So until, other things are shown, like, he's just got to deal with the consequences of what's going on right now.
Yeah, and obviously, Howard is in a spot where, you ever been around a guy, I'm sure you have, Marlon, where he's at the end of the line and maybe he knows it, but where they're kind of like, what am I supposed to do here? I don't want to just quit. You ever been in that situation or around guys in that situation where they know? I think Howard has to know it, but what's he supposed to do?
As you get older, you're supposed to slow down and not be the same as you were when you're a young player. He knows that, and I can say that I have been around that situation when I was with the Mets in '05. It was Piazza's last year up there, and it was tough to watch sometimes. I mean, what he was going through and not being able to get the job done, and just, it was a tough situation watching, and it's tough watching Ryan. I mean, he's not happy with it. It's embarrassing when you've been a superstar for a long time, and so I think Peter's doing the right thing. I think Ryan is trying to handle it the right way, but he still brings a lot of value to a young team like this because of his veteran presence and the knowledge that he has about the game and in the game and the things he's done. And he can help Joseph tremendously at first base by being that guy he can lean on for advice sometimes, because Joseph is going to have to make adjustments offensively, but also defensively. I mean, he hadn't played a lot of first base, so there's a place for Ryan on this team if he can buy in, what it is that his role is going to be. I think it'll be great for both of them.
What do you think of Joseph? I mean, do you look at him? I mean, because when this season started, Matt Klintak said it yesterday. He was not, viewed as a guy they were going to bring up a couple of weeks into the season. They didn't look at him as a guy, I guess, in the long term. Do you look at Tommy Joseph as a long-term guy? Can he hit in this league long term? Do you think that the guys will make adjustments for him, or do you look at a guy that has the staying power?
They will definitely make adjustments, and him having staying power is up to him. It's about the adjustments that he makes, and he has the potential. I mean, he's shown that he can play and he can hit and he can do the things in this league, but he's going to have to continuously make adjustments and figure it out. Right now, it's such a small sample size that I can't make I don't have an opinion saying, he's going to be able to do it or not. He's just going to have to keep working, keep making adjustments, and keep doing the things that have gotten him to the big leagues while he's in the big leagues.
Marlon, how about the draft and the Phillies draft? Do you think playing college ball helped you? Did you think you were ready in high school? And what's your take on college players versus guys straight out of high school?
If I'd have come out of high school, I'd have never made it to the big leagues. I promise you that. I learned a lot of baseball in the big leagues. I learned how to be a person, how to be out on my own. A lot of good things happened to me in college that helped me be the player that I was able to be. I learned a lot of baseball, and just being at a university that was all about learning the game and playing the game the right way, being able to bunt, being able to hit. It's just doing all the little things of the game. Playing at South Alabama taught me those things, and I would not have been the big league I was able to be without going to college for those 3 years.
Yeah, and by the way, he was a Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, Baseball American, first-team All-American, so you got to play at a pretty high level there. And it's funny because you just said you didn't think you'd make it. It's bizarre sometimes that somebody looks at a guy playing high school baseball and says, yep, that's the guy that's going to go number one overall. I find that to be such a risk to take a guy in high school at that high of a spot where you're expecting such an impact.
Your skills have to be so much above and beyond everybody else for them to see that and understand that. For me, again, I was not that guy. I could not have made it to the big leagues, I think, coming straight out of high school. I feel like I grew a little bit more. I definitely got stronger because of the weight program at the University of South Alabama that helped me tremendously to be able to grow and get stronger and to become a better player in all aspects of it.
Marlon Anderson with us, Phillies pre and post. So how long do we get to enjoy you on this stretch? Do we have you all the way through the weekend? How long are you with us?
No, the last couple of days. Next 2 days in Toronto, my last 2 days up. So I'll get to sit there and analyze and break down and talk a little Phillies baseball for the next 2 days, and then I'll have to head back down south for a little bit.
And at some point, I want to try one of these cakes. I just am teeing that up for you now,
Yeah, I'm definitely have to get you one next time I come up, something that you can taste and have your opinion about and then be able to share with the listeners, right?
Well, you know my size, so you know that I would probably share the cake with Mike, but I might eat most of it.
Well, that works, man. Definitely have to get that done for you.
Marlon Anderson's with us, and you'll be up here the next 2 days. You'll see Jeremy Hellickson going for the Phillies and Aaron Nola. Those two guys, and both of them have 500 records, but Nola's got an ERA under 3, and he was a high draft pick. He went to college, 7th pick overall, but he has got up here, in 1 year's time, and I think, Marlon, he has exceeded some people's expectations. Some people thought he'd be like a 3-4 guy. He looks like he is more of a top-of-the-rotation guy. He's got 88 strikeouts in 81 innings. That's kind of a top-of-the-rotation kind of stuff.
Well, I was one of those guys that he has definitely proved wrong, and he's changed a little bit. I really do think that he has top-of-rotation stuff. I do think that he's more of a number 2 guy, but the strikeouts are what's amazing for me because he has that curveball that, and, as a former hitter, and looking at him, what I see is that he hides the ball really well, and that's how he's able to get the strikeouts and 2 strikes because, he's got a lot of break on the breaking ball, but I think that it's the fact that he hides the ball. That's how he's getting the outs right now. And, it's good for him. I definitely didn't think he was going to be able to do it like this in this way. I thought it was going to take him a little bit more time because you see guys that are throwing 95, 96, 97, 98, or whatever, have the hard fastball. Those are the high strikeout guys and guys who are number 1s and number 2. But he's proven that he's a smart kid. He knows how to pitch, and his stuff is definitely good enough to play with in the big leagues.
Well, when it got to 9-0 today, Marlon, I was a little worried that you were going to have a really long game, and nobody likes that in television. But through the magic of television, we are watching you now on Comcast Sportsnet on PST, and you're talking to us. So God bless the magic of television and a fast game.
Yeah, definitely. You're amazed what they can do sometimes with those cameras, right?
It's magic.
Marlon Anderson, everybody. You'll see him on Comcast Sportsnet the next 2 nights for the Phillies and the Blue Jays, and we do appreciate him giving us a couple of minutes today on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Marlon.
All right, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.